Hi, Danelle Flanders here for Papertrey Ink with another Make It Monday tutorial. Today we're going to be talking about two-toned sentiments, and there are a couple of different ways to create this look. First, I'm going to show you how to achieve this look with any of the Papertrey Ink striped cover plates. There's a horizontal, a vertical, a diagonal, and then this little V-shaped one here. And if you don't have the cover plates, that's okay. I'm going to show you a way to get this look if you don't have them. I want everyone to be able to give it a try and participate. So let's get started. I'm using a black and white color combo today with true black cardstock and white embossing powder, but feel free to use any color of cardstock or embossing powder color combination that you would like to try for your project. Now the Thinking of You card was made with the cover plate stripes vertical. The Thanks card was made without the cover plate, but I will show you how the cover plate really does make it a lot easier. So first let's do the one with the cover plate. You'll cut your cardstock an A2 size, run it through your Cuttlebug or die cutting machine with the cover plate stripes vertical, and just pop out all of these extra little pieces. And you can actually use those on another project if you'd like. Now we're going to do some embossing, and you want a sentiment that's rather large. I'm using the Graceful Greeting stamp set today, and for the flowers I'm using the Bitty Bloom stamp set. For the sentiments, you want something that's large. Think Big Favorites would work well, the Big Hugs would work well. You want something that's going to overlap several of these lines to get the two-toned look. And then when you place your stamp onto your cover plate, you want to make sure there's room for the little flower at the top, or if you want to put the little flower underneath. So I'll just pick up my stamp here with my stamping block. We're going to be using Versamark ink for the embossing powder, and I have a little embossing buddy pouch that's going to help the powder from sticking to the parts where I don't want it to stick. So I'll ink up my stamp with the Versamark ink. And you'll want to try to get the stamp as straight as you can on your cover plate here. Go ahead and stamp it, and then we'll emboss with the white embossing powder. I keep my white embossing powder in this little bowl here, and I just use a Post-it note to pour it onto my project. Then you'll want to make sure you get all the extra flakes of embossing powder off of your card where you don't want it. So I use a little paintbrush. Just paint away the extra flakes. Then you'll go ahead and heat emboss to melt the embossing powder. And then after about 20 seconds, the image is melted and heat embossed onto my cover plate. Now we're going to remove this paper underneath, and I'm going to take a piece of white cardstock that's slightly larger than my cover plate, and I'll show you why here. Now we're going to be stamping the image, the hello image again, but this time in black. So you'll want to try to line it up where your other image was. If you have a Stamp-A-Majig, a stamp positioner that you can use for this process, that would make it a lot easier. This is why I cut my cardstock a little bit bigger, because I just kind of guess where it's going to go. I stamp it and place my cover plate back over the top, and I line it up. And then I just take a pencil and draw around the outside edge of the cover plate, and then I'll just trim the excess away, and that assures that I get my two images lined up just right. And then when you take that to your paper cutter, you'll trim just inside the pencil line. And then the great thing about using black cardstock is that if you do get any little embossing powder where you don't want it, you can just take a Sharpie, a black Sharpie, and just go right over the little white spots, and you have a perfectly clean black card, black and white card. Next, you'll just add adhesive to the back of your cover plate stripes. I'm using score tape here, but you can use a tape runner or whatever you prefer. Let's go ahead and add that to all of the back, peel off the backing of the score tape, and line it up with your black stamped image underneath as best you can. And that's it. It's a very, very simple technique. Such a cool look and a fun way to get a two-tone effect. And then you'll just add your little bitty bloom to the top and you have a very cool looking design. Now this happy birthday card was also made with the cover plate, same cover plate I used here. All I did was cut the sides off. I just wanted the stripes. I didn't want the frame around the whole card. And then I just backed it onto a white card base. It gives it a little bit of a different look. Now if you don't have any of these nice cover plates, you can do it without. It just takes a little bit more time and effort. The first thing you're going to do is stamp your image, your sentiment image, with Versamark ink. You can use your embossing buddy again. You'll stamp it right as straight as you can possibly get it because we're going to be cutting it into stripes and you want the stripes to be pretty straight and even. So go ahead and stamp that and emboss with your white embossing powder like we did before. And then for time's sake, I've gone ahead and embossed it with white embossing powder and used my black Sharpie to get rid of any of the extra little white dots on my card. And then you'll take a paper trimmer and we're just going to trim this whole piece into little sections. My sections are cut into 1/2 inch pieces, but you could do yours larger or smaller if you preferred to. So just go ahead and trim this whole thing into 1/2 inch strips. Even the sentiment, you want to cut right into the sentiment. I know it's rather strange, but we're going to fix it when we put it all back together again. For time's sake, I went ahead and cut all of the rest of the strips, and now you'll take your A2 size white card base. This is just a separate piece of paper, it's not the whole card base. When I finish the card front, I'll attach it to a card base later. And just start laying out your strips. We are going to remove every other strip. So we're going to be measuring even spaces. So it helps to work on a mat that has lines on it so you can get them nice and even. And then you can also use the little strips as spacers when you start adhering everything together so they're nice and straight and evenly spaced apart. So I'm just getting a general idea of where I think everything is going to go. Just sort of laying them out, how I think they're going to fit approximately for right now. Then I'm going to take a pencil and I'm just going to mark a couple of spots where I want the stamp to line up. Maybe the top of the T right here, and maybe where the line of the K starts. That way when I line up my stamp, I can get it approximately in the right position. If you have a stamp positioner, that would probably work great in this situation. Now we're going to go ahead and stamp with black ink onto the white base. Line it right up where you made your marks there. And it may not be absolutely perfect, but that's okay, we can fix it. So we'll go ahead and place our strips right over the top and line them up. And then we'll start adhering the strips on and spacing them out nice and evenly. So I've used one of the strips as a spacer to adhere the next strip, and then I will remove it. So you have every other strip. So I've gone ahead and started adhering all of the strips, and I'll show you how I just use every other strip as a spacer, and then I'll adhere one, and then I'll take the spacer out, and it just assures a nice even lines on my card. So here's the finished thanks card that I did not use the cover plate with, and you can see I have a little bit of white strip left on the one I was working on. You can just trim that right off and nobody will know. And then I added a Bitty Blooms die cut stamped with orange zest, raspberry fizz, new leaf inks, and then I just added a little bit of twine to my thanks card. And that's really it for the technique. I hope you have fun giving it a try and show us your projects. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope you have a great week. Bye.